Sarah swipes right on another emotionally unavailable man. Mark finds himself drawn to women who criticize him constantly. Jessica walks away from stable partners, claiming they are boring, only to chase those who treat her poorly. Research shows that 70% of people repeat the same relationship mistakes within 2 years of their last breakup. Most blame bad luck, timing, or claim that all the good ones are taken. But what if the problem runs far deeper than we dare to admit? Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the human unconscious, discovered something that challenges everything we believe about attraction. He found that we do not randomly stumble into toxic relationships. We actively seek them out. Jung argued that the people we attract are mirrors reflecting the darkest, most hidden parts of ourselves. The very qualities that repel us in others are the same traits we have buried deep within our own psyche. This is not about conscious choice. This is about an invisible force pulling us toward what we fear most about ourselves. Why does this matter? Because until we understand this psychological mechanism, we remain prisoners of our own unconscious patterns. We become magnets for dysfunction, repeating the same painful cycles generation after generation. Carl Gustav Jung spent decades studying the human mind, treating patients, and exploring the depths of consciousness. Born in 1875 in Switzerland, he began as a student of Sigmund Freud, but eventually broke away to develop his own revolutionary theories about human psychology. Jung discovered what he called the shadow, the collection of emotions, desires, and traits that we find unacceptable about ourselves. These are not necessarily evil qualities. They might include anger, selfishness, vulnerability, or even positive traits like creativity or confidence that our upbringing taught us to suppress. The shadow operates like a psychological blind spot. We cannot see these aspects of ourselves, but they do not disappear. Instead, they get projected onto other people. Jung observed that we are most disturbed by the behaviors in others that mirror our own hidden darkness. Consider the person who is constantly attracted to narcissists. Jung would suggest that this person has their own narcissistic traits that they refuse to acknowledge. The drama and chaos of dating a narcissist allows them to experience these suppressed aspects of themselves indirectly, through their partner, or take someone who repeatedly chooses partners who abandon them. Jung would argue that this person has a deep fear of intimacy and unconsciously selects people who will leave, protecting them from the vulnerability of true connection while allowing them to play the victim role. This is not victim blaming. This is recognizing that our unconscious mind has its own agenda, one that often conflicts with what we think we want consciously. The process begins in childhood, long before we understand what is happening to us. Our earliest relationships with caregivers create templates that our unconscious mind uses to navigate the world. These templates become so familiar that they feel like home, even when home was chaotic or painful. A child who grows up with an alcoholic parent learns to associate love with unpredictability, emotional intensity, and the constant hope that things will get better. As an adult, stable relationships feel foreign and boring. The nervous system, programmed for drama, seeks out partners who recreate that familiar emotional landscape. Neuroscience confirms what Jung intuited decades ago. Our brains are wired to seek the familiar, not the healthy. The neural pathways formed in childhood become superhighways that unconsciously guide our choices. We are drawn to what matches our internal emotional blueprint, regardless of whether it serves our well-being. Dr. Harville Hendricks, a relationship therapist, studied thousands of couples and found that people consistently choose partners who embody both the positive and negative traits of their primary caregivers. This is not coincidence. This is the unconscious mind attempting to heal old wounds by recreating them. Lisa, a successful lawyer, could not understand why she kept dating men who were financially irresponsible. Her father had been a dreamer who never held steady work, leaving her mother to carry the financial burden. Lisa had vowed never to repeat her mother's mistakes, yet she found herself paying for dinners, loans, and eventually supporting entire households of unemployed boyfriends. Jung would explain that Lisa had split herself in two. Consciously, she identified with responsibility and success. Unconsciously, she carried her father's carefree, irresponsible nature in her shadow. By dating irresponsible men, she could experience this suppressed part of herself without owning it. The unconscious mind does not distinguish between healing and repetition. It simply seeks to make the unfamiliar familiar, the incomplete complete. This is why we can logically know what type of partner would be good for us, yet feel no attraction to them. Our unconscious has a different agenda entirely. Today's digital landscape amplifies these unconscious patterns in dangerous ways. Dating apps reduce complex human beings to a series of photos and brief text snippets, forcing us to make split-second decisions based on superficial information. This environment is perfect for shadow projection. We swipe based on unconscious triggers, not conscious compatibility. The mysterious, emotionally unavailable person in the carefully curated photos triggers our shadow's need for drama and uncertainty. The kind, stable person with a genuine smile gets passed over because they do not activate our unconscious wounds. Social media creates an illusion of connection while preventing real intimacy. We can scroll through hundreds of potential partners without ever facing ourselves. The endless options feed the fantasy that the perfect person is just one swipe away, preventing us from doing the difficult work of examining our own patterns. Modern dating culture encourages surface-level interactions that never challenge our shadow projections. We can date someone for months while knowing nothing about their inner world, projecting our fantasies onto them until reality inevitably crashes. The speed of modern life also prevents the natural process of getting to know someone gradually. In previous generations, courtship happened slowly, allowing people to see past initial projections and develop genuine connection. Now we make decisions based on immediate chemistry, which is often just shadow recognition in disguise online. Dating creates a marketplace mentality where people become commodities to be consumed rather than complex beings to be understood. This environment rewards the very traits that create toxic relationships: superficial charm, emotional unavailability, and the ability to maintain mystery rather than authenticity. The result is an epidemic of shallow connections that feel intense, but lack substance. People mistake drama for passion, uncertainty for excitement, and projection for love. Jung believed that the only way to break these unconscious patterns is through what he called individuation, the process of becoming conscious of our shadow and integrating it into our personality. This is not about eliminating the shadow, which is impossible, but about owning it consciously so it stops controlling us from the darkness. The first step is recognizing your patterns. Look at your relationship history not as a series of random events, but as a psychological map revealing your unconscious programming. What types of people do you consistently attract? What behaviors in partners trigger the strongest emotional reactions in you? These triggers are pointing directly at your shadow. Jung suggested keeping a relationship journal, noting not just what happens, but your emotional responses to various situations. Pay attention to the moments when you feel most activated, most judgmental, or most victim-like. These emotional charges indicate where your shadow is being triggered. The next step is reclaiming your projections. When you find yourself extremely bothered by a partner's behavior, ask yourself, how might I do this same thing in a different way? If your partner is controlling, examine your own controlling tendencies. If they are dishonest, look at the ways you deceive yourself or others. This practice requires brutal honesty and the willingness to see yourself as capable of the very behaviors you condemn. It means accepting that you are not the hero of your own story, but a complex human being with both light and dark qualities. Shadow work also involves feeling your emotions fully instead of projecting them onto others. When you feel angry, instead of finding someone to blame, sit with the anger and discover what it is trying to tell you about your own needs and boundaries. Jung emphasized that this work cannot be done alone. We need mirrors, trusted friends, therapists, or spiritual teachers who can help us see our blind spots. The shadow, by definition, is what we cannot see about ourselves. Perhaps most importantly, shadow work requires patience. These patterns, developed over decades and will not change overnight. The goal is not perfection, but consciousness. The ability to choose your responses rather than being driven by unconscious compulsions. Jung's most profound insight was that we cannot truly love another person until we have faced and accepted the totality of ourselves. Authentic love requires the capacity to see others as they actually are, not as projections of our own unconscious needs and fears. When we operate from our shadow, our relationships become transactions designed to meet unconscious needs, rather than genuine connections between two whole human beings. We use others to feel powerful, validated, or safe, rather than offering the gift of our authentic presence. The person who does the work of shadow integration becomes capable of conscious choice in relationships. They are no longer driven by unconscious compulsions or addicted to familiar dysfunction. They can recognize healthy partners and feel attracted to qualities like kindness, stability, and emotional availability because these no longer threaten their sense of identity. This transformation ripples outward, affecting not just romantic relationships but friendships, family dynamics, and professional connections. When we stop projecting our shadow onto others, we create space for genuine intimacy and mutual growth. Jung understood that this work is ultimately about taking responsibility for our own emotional lives, rather than making others responsible for our happiness or healing. It is about becoming the person we have been seeking in others. The most beautiful relationships emerge when two people have done this inner work, when they come together not from neediness or unconscious programming, but from wholeness and choice. These relationships become vehicles for continued growth rather than arenas for old wounds to play out endlessly. If you recognize yourself in these patterns, remember that awareness is the first step toward freedom. The very fact that you are questioning your relationship patterns means you are ready to break the cycle. Start by observing your reactions to others without judgment. Notice what triggers you most strongly in relationships, and ask yourself how those same qualities might exist within you. Begin the journey of befriending your shadow rather than fighting it. Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Your relationship patterns are not punishments. They are invitations to discover the parts of yourself that are waiting to be healed and integrated. The work is difficult, but the reward is immense. The capacity to love and be loved authentically, consciously, and completely. In a world full of surface connections and unconscious projections, this becomes a revolutionary act. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on your own relationship patterns. What behaviors in others trigger you most strongly? Share your insights in the comments below. Your courage to look honestly at yourself might inspire others to begin their own journey of conscious love.